Alright guys, so I want to talk about peaking in general. There's a lot of different peaks and peak styles that we can talk about. But I kind of just want to talk about a few of them to just give you like a gist, like an overview of, I guess, what I think about when I play, to be completely honest. So there's a couple different peaks. Obviously there's like, let me just kind of go to a straight angle and I can show you. So, you know, if I'm playing, right, let's use this as an example, okay. So there's the crouch peak, which basically what you want to do is you want to aim where it actually is. That way you don't have to adjust your mouse. So you're kind of pre-aiming through the wall and then you just crouch peek and shoot, you know what I mean? So I know that this is where the fucking slit thing is, like the little like rectangle is probably right here. So what I'm going to do is aim here, so that way when I peek out, it's on target. Does that make sense? So, obviously, pre-aiming and like knowing where your angles are. If someone says always underpass, I'm gonna go like this. That way I'm ready. That way I don't come out like this and then I have to adjust to overpass. So peaking, a lot of like what is gonna help you as far as what your peaks look like is if you know the map. For example, if I'm peaking mid, right? I'm peaking mid like this, not like okay, here we go. You know. So it's gonna. The more time you save when you like peek someone. For example, if I'm peeking Talus, right? Or if I'm going like right here. Like the best way to go up here, by the way, is like right here, and then I can go like this, and then I can peek. So you just want to make sure that like you have knowledge of the maps, and this is kind of the stuff that you want to be able to practice on your own and stuff like that. And I have a YouTube video that talks about, you know, how to set up a practice server and all the different stuff. And I have my bot execution on my stream. But overall, let's just talk about a few different peak styles. So if you're doing crouch peek, obviously you're going to crouch peek. So you're going to go like this, crouch peek, shoot, right? If you're doing a shoulder peek, you're going to be doing really tight angles. Shoulder peeks are not my strong suit, I can tell you right now. But, you know, if I'm sitting right here and I know that someone's right here, a shoulder peek is where you just show enough of your body to be able to shoot that target. It's just like a very tiny slit peek. Some people are just naturally good at it. I'm not. So then there's the wide peek, right? So if I know that he's like holding an angle like this, I'm gonna wide peek, and you can do a wide crouch peek too. So again, this is the shoulder peek where you're just showing just your shoulder. So like if I was aiming right here, this was me and I had an op, all I would be able to see is the shoulder, and then I would die basically. So that's shoulder peek. Crouch peek like this. I like to wide peek. I like to be like that guy who like peeks out way too much, because it's almost like, what the hell is that guy doing? You know, it doesn't make any sense. And then you can do the wide crouch. So what you do is you walk wide and then you crouch and spray. And so that's kind of what you want to do if someone's low on ammo or they have a pistol or something, just like, because you're going to basically catch them out on, like they're going to have to peek wide because you're peeking wide, and then you can catch them and trap them. So that's that, and then there's a jump peek, which I don't do too often, but you can go like this, you just jump and then you shoot. That one used to be really good in Source, but the movement and go is slightly different. It doesn't really reward you to jump. It's kind of like you have to wait a lot longer to really do anything. So yeah, you've got the shoulder peek, the wide peek, the crouch peek. It's like a crouch shoulder kind of, right? And then you've got the wide crouch. You've got the jump peek. And then there's something that one of my trainees back in Source told me about. It's called a Randy peek. So what that means is, it's not necessarily like anything, right? But what you want to be able to do is, like, if you're sitting right here, right, you hear him coming up, like you hear him fucking stomping up the ramp like this, right? Obviously you know where he is. You know, like, I can basically tell where someone is based on like what, you know, if someone makes one step, like let's say someone makes a step, I know almost exactly where that guy is and where his head is in relation to the floor. So if I see, you know, if someone says, hey, he's cat corner, boom, right there, boom. So this is the Randy peek, is when you really have no information on where the person is, aside from what you heard or what your teammate called or anything like that. And so what you really want to focus on is, okay, where's that step? If I hear a step over here, right? Okay, so he stepped over here. So you want to get your mouse ready. Again, you're pre-aiming through this, right? You're going to get your mouse ready and you're going to go. So a Randy peek just basically means that you know someone's coming, and instead of like sitting, you know, at an angle like this, for example, you don't ever want to, well, this is a great example. You don't ever want to like give someone the peeker's advantage. And if you are, you want to hold a really tight angle. So if I'm holding this, this is just like in case he decides to play here. And this is something I do as an offer a lot. Unless he decides to like go like this and walk up here, I'm not going to kill him. But it's very unlikely that he'll kill me. So if you're holding an open angle, as I call it, meaning you're in the open, right? You're not behind the wall. if I'm holding mid like this, I'm not going to hold mid like this, because he has the peeker advantage. So I'm going to hold mid with an off or something. I'm not going to hold it like this, you know? I'm going to hold it like this. That way if he does peek me and I miss, he can't really kill me. Like, he can maybe hit me through the wall, but there's really nothing he can do. So I recommend that if you are going to be playing angles like that, as far as like open angles, that they're very tight and that you just take your chances. So obviously I'm holding a tight angle because I'm assuming the opponent is going to like peek at a tight angle, which most of the time he does. Some people jump across. You can try to go for that pick, or you can just back off. It really depends on what you want to do and what your play style is. If you're kind of passive or aggressive, or if you're a flick shot hopper, or if you just kind of like to hold angles and wait for people to come by them. But again, one of the kind of emphasis point I want to put on is that if you are holding, right, let's say you're holding like this. This is not a bad angle because no one really peeks this. Even though it goes against everything I just said, this is not an angle people look at least from A. Like, obviously, you know, he can kill me from there, but the point I'm trying to make is that for me, at least as an opper, if I'm holding, you know, if someone says, oh, they're pushing B halls, you know, they're coming up here, what I'm going to do is hold close, right? Because guess what? Obviously, I'm going to cut this angle off just in case, but guess what? If he peeks me, I'm ready. You know, I'm ready for that kill. If he jumps across, I flick. So for me, personally, I'm more comfortable sitting here and flicking if he crosses versus sitting here, like right here, and then flicking to a tiny little shoulder that's going to be sitting right here, you know, if he does decide to peek me, kind of like this. So if I come out, right, and I go like this sucks. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of sucks if I'm sitting here, you know, I don't like adjusting to really tiny angles. I'd rather be set up on the tiny angle and then get the moving angle, if that makes sense. So this would be the tiny angle like this if he decides to peek, and then if he jumps across, then I adjust and I move. So that's just kind of a basic on peeking. So again, you've got the shoulder peek, the crouch peek close, the crouch peek wide, the wide peek, and the jump peek. And then the Randy peek to kind of finish it off. And again, the Randy peek is kind of a mixture of all of those. It really just depends on what you're doing and like where your position is. But for example, this is the Randy peek. If I'm sitting right here and I hear him, you know, let's say he runs and then he starts walking. Well, let's see, how long would it take for him to walk? Maybe like 3 or 4 seconds. So I count a little bit and then I just go like this, and I kind of am already set up on where I think he's going to be, and then I peek. One last thing about peeking is kind of like what I just talked about as far as like I like to hold tight and then move my angle. The last thing I want to tell you about peeking is, let's say we're in this exact scenario right here, right? You don't want to hold a wide angle if it's quiet. So if you hear them running up, you might want to hold a wide angle, right? Because they're going to cross this corner so fast that if you're holding it like this, you're really not going to kill anyone. So, you know, obviously you want to adjust and play the angle like this. You know, but if you hear them and then they're just quiet, you want to hold a tight angle so that you can see their gun, then you just shoot them as they walk up. So it's kind of just it's kind of a mixture of everything that you've learned. You know, you kind of just want to implement into your gameplay based on the situation that you're in. But yeah, guys, that's just an overview on peeking. If you want any in-depth questions or, you know, scenarios or anything like that, be sure to post a comment. Definitely like the video and share it. And check out my stream. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
The sun hits like a bullet of fate, and then suddenly I'm